A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it and throw to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. The Cubs come pouring out of the dugout, jumping up and down like a bunch of delirious 10-year-olds. The Cubs have done it. The longest drought in the history of American sports is over, and the celebration begins.
That, the final call of the Cubs' first World Championship since 1908, courtesy of Pat Hughes. And we go to the legendary broadcaster here, joining us on JOCK 98.7, the voice of the Chicago Cubs, Pat Hughes. How are you doing, sir?
Nate, I'm doing fine. I just took the phone call from your producer. I think I threw him off guard a little bit. I like to play a joke when I'm going to be a guest on a radio show. I say, Pat's Pizza Palace, as I answer the phone, and he was silent for a few seconds, and then he threw me off. He said, I'll order a pepperoni. So that's where we are. But I'm fine, Nate. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, and I love that. That's a perfect start to this because I think people get it on the radio, and they should. If they don't, they're missing the butt of the joke. But the humor that you bring to a broadcast is very subtle, but always there for a good laugh.
Well, I think that really, I love to have fun. I love to laugh. And I love being at the ballpark. And ever since I was a little boy, playing games or going to ball games, I found myself laughing. I mean, having good belly laughs. It's fun to be at a baseball park. It's fun to watch a baseball game and to be with your family and friends. And it's great, great fun to play the game. So I think that really is just something that's been with me since childhood. And today, I'm 64 years old. I'm ready to start my 25th year with the Cubs and my 38th season in big league ball, and I still have that same feeling, Nate. I think that when you go to a ballpark, if you don't have some good laughs every single day, you're missing the point because it's a fun place to be.
And a fun place to be, Wrigley Field. The Cubs have had just a tremendous stretch here, including their World Championship. But calling Wrigley Field your office, how special that must be.
It still is. And I find myself, even after all these years, there's a concrete walkway, circular, that you have to make your way up to the press box. And many times on a beautiful summer day, the Cubs are playing the Cardinals maybe, and it's the middle of June, I'll get up to the top of that walkway before I go into the press box, and I'll just look out at the ballpark. The field, Lake Michigan is off in the background, the tall skyscrapers on the near north side of Chicago are in the background, but it's part of the neighborhood. It's a beautiful setting. It really is. You got the ivy on the walls, and of course the buzz in the stadium is always there, especially when the Cardinals are in town. So the novelty has not worn off to call Wrigley Field home, and after all these years, Nate, I don't think it ever will.
Is there anything better than a Cubs-Cardinals series, whether it's at Busch Stadium or Wrigley? The atmosphere is pretty unmatched.
It's great. It's absolutely great. We get to do 19 of those games every year, and I think that's one of the coolest things about being a Cubs announcer is getting to broadcast the Cubs-Cardinals games. And you're right, in either park, Busch Stadium or Wrigley, I tell people all the time that these new ballparks that pop up, they're all gorgeous. They're all modern. They have all the nice amenities, and they're comfortable and everything. But you cannot create atmosphere in a ballpark artificially. The atmosphere at Wrigley Field and Busch Stadium is natural, it's daily, and it's intense. And when those two teams play each other, you can just ratchet that thing up several notches because it's a special feeling. I was thinking about the final weekend of this last year the other day. The Cubs had collapsed down the stretch, and it's painful for me to even think about them losing 9 in a row, 4 of those to the Cardinals at Wrigley in a key late September series, and all 4 losses were by a single run. So that series pretty much ended the Cubs' hopes. Then they went to Pittsburgh and got swept. So the Cubs had actually lost 9 in a row before arriving in St. Louis for that final series. Now, the Cardinals still had some business to do. They needed to clinch the title. Milwaukee was playing in Colorado. But the Cubs, down and out, limping and injured. Anthony Rizzo had a bad ankle. Chris Bryant had a bad ankle. The Cubs somehow beat the Cardinals with the whole season on the line for St. Louis. The Cubs beat them twice. Finally, then, on the final day of the season, the Cardinals beat the Cubs to win the division. But it just showed you how special that rivalry is. No matter what the circumstance, those games, they take on a life of their own.
Yeah, they really do. And fortunately for St. Louis, Milwaukee had a tough go against Colorado in some late inning drama in that game to kind of keep that final day of the season in reach for the Cardinals to ultimately win the division. But the drama in baseball, and one thing, Pat, that I think that you do the best is, you've got your scorebook, and of course you do your research and you have your notes, but you're watching the game, and you bring the listeners right into the ballpark and give us the visuals as best you can.
Well, I think that's part of my job, Nate, and thanks for saying that. I know you're a fine broadcaster in your own right. You do an excellent job of baseball play-by-play, and I have no doubt you'll be a big league announcer in the future at some point. But so much of what I do is just my training. Remember the weather. Ernest Hemingway, the great writer, always said, remember the weather. And I thought that's a pretty good thing for a broadcaster to remember. Everyone can relate to the weather, if it's humid, if it's cold, if it's windy, if it's bright and sunny. So remember the weather. And colors are always an important part of a ballpark. What color are the seats? What color are the uniforms? What color is the outfield wall? Is there anything, like the arch in St. Louis? That always deserves a mention. So colors and weather, and I really try to just, keep an open mind. And what am I seeing? Whatever I'm seeing, I try to put it into words so that the audience on the radio broadcast can see it as well.
You told me the story years back before you had a big league job about reaching out to every single general manager in baseball and sent them your tapes, and it turned out to be, it came true that you then became the voice of the Minnesota Twins.
Well, that's the way I did it. I didn't. I came from nowhere. I was not a big league player. My athletic career ended with 1 year of college basketball. And by the way, Nate, they retired my jersey at the end of the season, not for anything historic, but mainly for reasons of personal hygiene. But that was the end of my career. So I came from nowhere, but I love sports and I wanted to be involved. So I thought the next best thing to being a ball player would be to be the radio voice of a great franchise, and that was my goal, and that's the way it's turned out. But no, I've been very, very fortunate, and I think when you're starting out, if you wait for people to call you, you're never going to make it. So I always believed in trying to make things happen. So you're right. What I did when I was a young minor league announcer, at the end of every year, I would put together a little clip of my best stuff, my best play-by-play, and I would send that out to everyone. And I spent a lot of my income at that point on postage and on materials, but I felt it was a good investment, and I'm glad I did, and I would recommend that to anyone.
Hey, you may joke on your basketball game, but I've heard you've got a pretty strong jump shot, and I know you still go to the gym quite often and make quite a few of those almost every day.
Well, I'm heading out there today, and again, I'm 64. I don't know if jump shot is the real accurate term these days. It's more of a set shot like Larry Bird used to take, where, in fact, Larry made a great point. He said, if you have to jump, it's probably not a good shot to be taking. That's a good thing to keep in mind for young basketball players. But, no, I jog from end to end. I shoot 150 shots. I count how many I make. I increase the distance with each succeeding round, and I just love shooting. It's a fun thing to do. It's a lot less torturous than just running on a treadmill where you're thinking about the pain with each step. So it occupies my mind, and it gives me a great workout at the same time. So I'm going to keep on doing that as long as I possibly can.
Pat Hughes is our guest here on Jock 98.7, the voice of the Chicago Cubs. Can you give our listeners just a sneak peek of your actual scorebook? It's custom made, correct? And you fill it in daily with all your notes and numbers.
I do. It's pretty standard, really, Nate. It's just you have the lineups for the visiting team on the left side. The home team is on the right side. I have up above the lineups the defensive chart for the other team, so that if a ball is hit into, left center field, you can immediately look at your chart and see who's playing left and who's playing center. And I always fill it in phonetically. I may spell names wrong because when I glance at it, for example, Jason Hayward, now he played for the Cardinals and now, of course, for the Cubs. Now, his name is spelled H-E-Y, but on my scorebook, it's H-A-Y, because I want to look at the name and immediately put that into a word. So I don't have time to think, well, gee, how does he pronounce it? The only thing that's important is how I pronounce it at the moment that I have to. But I have all kinds of little topical things over on the right side of my book. I may have read something about an event that happened in Los Angeles late last night, or in Seattle or Detroit. Maybe there was a triple play. Maybe a guy flirted with a no-hitter. And I call those topicals, and I will bring those up with my great partner, Ron Coomer, and Zach Zaidman is our third guy in the booth. But, so I have the lineups. I have the defensive charts. You have little notes. I always have extra notes on the starting pitcher each game. What did they do last time out? How have they done historically against the team that they're facing? And what are the head-to-head matchups? How has Matt Carpenter done, for example, against Kyle Hendricks or whatever? I think those are always pertinent statistics. But having said that, I try not to bury a broadcast in statistics. Baseball is very numerically oriented, so you have to give some, but I try to pick my spots with the stats because the fewer statistics that you give, the more meaningful they will be.
And you ask Ron questions a lot, like what pitch is he thinking about going with here? And that adds just another insight to get his player's mindset of the moment.
Sure. Ronnie was there. Ron Coomer was an excellent big league ball player. He was an all-star in 1999 with the Minnesota Twins. So when the count gets to 2-2, and there's a guy in the middle of the order, which is where Coomer used to bat, it's 2-2. You got two guys on. You're down by a run. Coomer was in that spot many times. He remembers what it was like. So what's the batter looking for here, Ron? Or if the Cubs are on defense, what pitch might get this guy out? So I always try to tap into his knowledge. I feel like part of my job is working with my partner and getting his knowledge on the broadcast and into the ears of the listener. Now, whether he can do that on his own, that's great. But I think that it's part of my job to try to pull out even more information if I can.
Pat, you have created these CDs, baseballvoices.com, and you produce, you write, and you narrate these different features of legendary broadcasters. And I love this. You write, the CDs include many of my favorite things: baseball, broadcasting, history, highlights, humor, storytelling, vocabulary, and music.
That's it, man. That's my whole life right there, Nate. You pretty much described my entire life. But but no, I love this. These things are a tremendous amount of work, and they're not for everyone. But if you like baseball on the radio, which I do, these are commemorative audio tributes. The first two, and I know you have a lot of Cardinal fans in your audience, Nate, the first two that I produced and wrote and narrated were Jack Buck and Harry Carey. And I created those in 2005 and 2006. Now, they were released in the autumn of '06, right after the Cardinals beat the Detroit Tigers in the World Series. Dan Caesar, the great radio TV sports writer in St. Louis for the Post-Dispatch, I sent him a couple of copies of Jack Buck and Harry Carey, and he was very impressed. And he wrote a beautiful column right near Thanksgiving. Now, this is right after the Cardinals had been the world champions, so the Cardinal fans were in a great mood, and Dan writes about the CDs that I put together, and he said how much Cardinal fans would like them. And lo and behold, there were several hundred orders shortly thereafter, and I think at that point I thought maybe I've hit on something kind of special. But I love baseball highlights. I love history. For example, on Jack Buck, you've got him calling the home run by the Wizard, Ozzie Smith, 1985, one of my all-time great local radio home run calls that I've ever heard. Go crazy, folks, go crazy. And that was a track right there. Harry Carey, we had him calling the 1964 Cardinals pennant race down the stretch. There's a lot of history there. Stan Musial, some highlights with Harry calling Stan the Man, including his 3,000th hit, which was in a game at Wrigley back in 1958. But these are history. These are milestones. They are the biggest moments of the broadcaster's career, his life story, his Hall of Fame speech, and lots of stories and lots of humor. And I loved Jack Buck, and I loved Harry Carey. Harry and I worked together for a couple of years, but it was always a thrill for me, Nate, if you can imagine this. I got to Chicago in 1996, and sometimes Harry Carey would be preempted for a network telecast, so he would come over and join Ron Santo and me on Cubs radio. He would sit right in between Santo and me for the whole 9 innings, and it was great. But I would look to my left, and if you can imagine from my viewpoint, I would see Harry Carey to my immediate left, then Ron Santo behind him, and then there's a glass partition that you can see through. Jack Buck would be just on the other side of the glass. So here I am, sitting next to Harry and Ron and right next to Jack Buck, and you have one of those moments like you say, how did I ever get here? And what am I doing here? But anyway, it was getting back to the CDs. They've kind of taken on a life of their own. I'm delighted to say that I spend a good chunk of my time in the off season putting them together, and the latest one is Bob Costas, another guy with St. Louis ties. And if any of your listeners are curious about this, go to baseballvoices.com. Free shipping on all orders, Nate. Free shipping. The Costas CD is actually a 2-CD set, so it's a little pricier, but it's in the $25 range. The others are about $18. And baseballvoices.com.
Well, you sent me the Jack Buck tape, and, I mean, it is just remarkable. And ironically, last night I was sitting with somebody next to them at a basketball game and told them that you were going to be coming on the air. And he said that he had purchased multiple of these CDs and listens to them regularly because they're not a one-time listen. They're meant to be heard over and over again. And the list goes on.
Thank you for saying that, Nate. You're right. I try to make them fun. I've got Jack Buck doing some after-dinner speaking. He was receiving an award late in his life, and he was really struggling with a lot of issues, and he said, I've got cataracts, and I've got a pacemaker, and I got diabetes. He said, the way I look at it, I have given the Cardinals some of the best years of my life, and now I'm going to give them some of the worst. So I try to make them fun. Again, this is my own sensibility here, Nate. I love hearing baseball highlights. I always have, especially when there's something historic involved. So we try to put history and milestones, guys winning 20 games or hitting 500 homers or winning their 300th game. Those are all part of Baseball Voices. And we got 17 CDs now. We got Jack Buck and Harry Carey and Bob Costas. We've got Bob Uecker and Marty Brenneman and Milo Hamilton, Red Barber, Mel Allen, John Miller. That was a fun one to do a couple of years ago. Russ Hodges and Lon Simmons. And anyway, 17 of them on baseballvoices.com.
Denny Matthews as well is here in Southwest Missouri. A lot of Royals fans would have interest in Denny Matthews' CD as well. I guess, why do you think baseball plays so well on the radio, Pat?
That's a good question. I'm sure glad that it does, however. I think part of it is that the game's pace is slower than football and basketball and hockey, where it's just frantic action. Everyone has played baseball, so you can imagine when an announcer says left field or the right field line or second base, you've played the game. You can immediately picture where that is on the playing field. I think it's in the summertime where a lot of people have barbecues, and I know a lot of people listen to our games in their cars. Chicago is a great car radio city, and I'm sure St. Louis is too. I think that also the fact that the radio announcer, Nate, has to continually communicate with the listener, something the television announcer does not necessarily have to do. On television, I'll watch a game sometimes, and a guy will be batting, and the count's 2-2, and it's the 8th inning. It's a tie game, a lot of drama. And now the batter will foul off 2 or 3 pitches in a row, and the announcer doesn't say anything. Just, well, still 2-2. Oh, you got a piece of that one. But the radio announcer, I mean, he's on every pitch. Here's the 2-2, swinging a foul again. So we'll do it again at 2-2. And, you know, there's that constant companionship that the radio announcer has with the listener that you don't really get with the TV guys. Now, I'm not denigrating television announcers in any way. To do either one well, to announce games on radio or television, takes a lot of talent and dedication and skill. But I prefer radio, and it's a match made in heaven. I think here's the way I look at it, Nate. If since we do live in the video age, everything is computer screens and high tech and television. I mean, TV pictures and pictures are everywhere. If television has not killed radio yet, or baseball on the radio, I don't think it ever will. It's a special bond the radio announcer has with the audience, and that's probably the simplest way I can put it.
Well, just hearing you, it gets me ready for baseball season even more than I already am, and spring training right around the corner. I know the Cubs just had their convention. A lot of enthusiasm about David Ross, new manager, and the Central looks like it's going to be another beast in the National League.
I think every team in the division looks good. Cincinnati has really strengthened themselves. The Cardinals, you know, they'll be good. They're the defending champs. Milwaukee's been good the last couple of years, and I know the Cubs still have a lot of very good players. I think at this point, and this could change, but I think only the Pirates would not be considered a strong preseason contender.
Before you go, can we get a Chicago Cubs baseball is on the air?
Chicago Cubs baseball is on the air.
The legendary Pat Hughes, you are the best. I look forward to another great season of listening to you and Ron and Zach, and thank you for all the great memories and always fun to work with as well, Pat.
Well, Nate, you're a good man. I'm happy to be on with you anytime, and you keep up the good work yourself, and I look forward to seeing you down the road.
It sounds great. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Pat Hughes joining us here on JOCK 98.7, and do check out baseballvoices.com. Again, he does all this work himself, and I'll tell you a quick story before we hit a break here. But, Pat we had to record a couple of things. The Cubs were in town for opening day, and we needed to cut a few spots to play on the network that weren't done, and there were some late ads. And so before the game, we're cutting them, and we're getting them all together and readying them for that night's broadcast. And we got into talking about production. And he has a very good ear for production, as I think I do. And he had talked to me about these baseball voices because he puts so much time and effort into producing them and writing them and then narrating them and adding in these highlights. They really are a terrific production. And so if you're looking for a gift or just your own enjoyment to relive some of the best moments on radio with some of the greatest personalities, I would highly recommend baseballvoices.com and checking out Pat Hughes' work. But the legendary Pat Hughes, the voice of Chicago Cubs, joining us here on the JOCK.
2 balls, 2 strikes. The pitch by Gausman. A swing and a drive toward left center field and deep. Back goes Lorenzen. It's got a chance. Gone! 3-run homer, Kyle Schwarber. Cubs lead 3-0. And Chris drives one to the air, deep left field. It's got a chance. Gone. Chris Bryant, a 2-run homer to left. Cubs lead 7-1.